She told me to look at the flat screen TV in the room and said, "You are like a commodity. You are like that TV I bought you. If you don't work, pay back the money I bought you with." My name is Awa Francisca. I am a native of Cameroon. After graduating from school in Norway, I returned to Cameroon in the hopes of finding a good job. However, all my efforts were futile. Several years went by without a job until finally, in 2015, I was approached by an old friend who I had grown up with. He told me about an opportunity to teach English in Kuwait and persuaded me to take the job since I am well educated. According to him, the salary was great and it would allow me to provide for my 2-year-old son. I couldn't resist the offer, so I diligently prepared for it. I bought new clothes, a dictionary, and other teaching tools that were appropriate for the job. Within 3 weeks, I had a visa for Kuwait. The only part of the visa that was in English was my name. Everything else was in Arabic. Little did I know that the type of visa I was given would bind me to domestic servitude and strip me of my rights as a human being. The first red flag was when I arrived at the airport in Kuwait. There were about 200 of us from different countries, and they placed us in a room for 7 hours. It was so hot in the room, and they wouldn't even allow us to lean against the wall. We were made to sit on the floor. I was surprised by the poor treatment we were being given, because I know how well respected teachers are in Cameroon. Finally, I was told that my employer had come to get me. My passport was given to the man who came to pick me up, and for the next 17 days, I worked day and night for a family with 2 toddlers and received no pay. It was bad. Many of the things I had to do were very degrading. When I complained about the work, I was taken back to the agency and was placed with a second family. The second family changed their minds on my arrival. About an hour later, I was placed with another family. I had no choice at all. I was made to work as a house help there. I washed the cars. I worked in the garden in the extreme heat. I cooked for them. I washed their clothes. And the worst of it all was that I was also sexually abused. The abuse would take place whenever the wife would travel. On one occasion, the wife left for 2 weeks, and I was sexually violated every night during that time period. I felt powerless. He reminded me of the day they bought me, and his wife had told me the word no could not be used in their home. There was a time when it was too much for me. The wife was still around, and I was helping her pack her clothes. I helped her as she prepared to go on another trip. I told her that my son is a street child in Africa because I promised I would send money to care for him. But I haven't been paid any money. So I begged her to let me go back home. She told me to look at the flat screen TV in the room and said, "You are like a commodity. You are like that TV. I bought you. If you don't work to pay back the money I bought you with, pay the money for your flight and go back home." That was the worst day of my life. I was being equated to a commodity, a television. The rape was bad, but I felt so bad that day. The couple had bought me for $3,000, and I knew there was no way I could pay that money back. I would work 20 to 22 hours a day. At night, I would wash dishes and clean the house. During the day, I would wash the cars, work in the 2 gardens that they had, and cook their food. I would go to the restroom 10 times a day just so I could rest. During that time, I would try to email people for help using a cell phone I had purchased upon entering Kuwait. One day, I came across a program called the CNN Freedom Project, which reports on modern-day slavery. I began secretly watching the program in the kitchen while I cooked, making sure the TV was muted. Each time the program would come on, I would see adverts of humanitarian organizations fighting against modern-day slavery, and I would take down the number and the address and put it in my pocket. After staying in that home for over 2.5 months, I ran away to one of the African embassies in Kuwait. Some people I met were not friendly to my plight, but eventually I ended up at the Central African Republic Embassy. It was on a Friday. I spent the night sending emails to every humanitarian organization I could find, asking for help. The following day, one of the diplomats arrived. After I told the diplomat my story, he asked me for the number for my employer. I provided the number, and he called the family I had worked for. The next day, the husband came with my passport. It was only by the grace of God. The following Monday, my employer took my passport to the police for a signature, which meant I only had 7 days to leave Kuwait. If I didn't, I would be arrested. The clock was ticking. I reached out to so many organizations. Some referred me to organizations in my country that I was already communicating with. Knowing what I was going through, some would even shout at me and say, "Stop disturbing my phone. Did we send you to go and put yourself in such an ordeal?" My parents thought I was going to die there because the money needed for my flight back home was an amount that they could never afford. So I decided to reach out to Katie Ford, founder and CEO of Freedom for All in the US, and asked for help. Ford asked what I needed, and I told her I needed money for my flight. So I scanned a copy of my passport and sent it to her, and she sent me a ticket through my email. Within 4 days, I was on a flight to Cameroon, and I finally